disaster losses by 30 to 50%. Advanced EWS can reduce disaster-related deaths by up to 8-fold. It's not just about warnings, it's about risk knowledge, monitoring and forecasting, communication, preparedness to respond, anticipatory financing, and early actions. The Secretary-General's Early Warnings for All initiative calls for universal coverage. And the Asia-Pacific can lead the way by scaling up EWS for all hazard. We know the solutions, now let's invest in them. Together, we can ensure every community is protected from the next disaster. Early warnings for all.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I am Ipshita Sarkar and I am MC of this session. It is a very long session, so I hope you all will be able to bear with us and stay with us right till the end. We promise you should have some fun. You will get a chance to speak as much as hear us speak as well. Right. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I extend a warm welcome to each of you to the Early Warning for All multi-stakeholder forum session on Voices from the Ground on Early Warning, Early Action, how to achieve gender-responsive and inclusive universal coverage. This side event is organized in cooperation between GNDR, UNDRR SEM, and IFRC. Early warning systems are an essential tool for disaster risk reduction that helps save lives and minimize potential impact of disasters. It is not enough that early warning systems correctly identify hazards. The robustness of the system is only proven when those most at risk from hazards can receive the warnings, interpret them, and take appropriate action. To ensure the effectiveness of early warning systems, active and direct participation of at-risk communities is critical, and this includes building their awareness of risks and enhancing their ability to take timely action when they receive early warning messages. An early warning system is most effective when the end-to-end system is in place, connecting those for whom the warnings are intended with those who track hazards and issue the warnings. Traditionally, communities for whom early warnings are issued have been considered the last mile of the entire early warning system. However, as long as communities are seen as incidental to early warning systems, the success or the effectiveness of such systems will always be based on probabilities. Conversely, when early warning systems are set up by keeping communities at the center or the first mile, the effectiveness improves dramatically, as this not only ensures that the warnings reach who they are intended for, but also that communities have the capacities to act on these warnings. This is because communities are always the first responders, whilst trying to protect themselves, their assets, their livelihoods, and community members as well. This session will focus on people-centered approach to early warning systems, which goes beyond viewing communities as mere receivers of early warnings, but rather viewing them as integral actors who not only identify the risks for which early warnings are required, but also play their part as producers and facilitators of early warning information. It seeks to ensure community ownership and empowerment at every stage. The warnings need to be localized enough to allow communities to understand the expected impact of a hazard in their respective locations and the actions they need to take to reduce its impacts. A key aspect of such community-driven early warning system is the ability to be inclusive, such that the unique needs of each community and its most vulnerable members, such as women, children, elderly, differently abled, most marginalized people, people living in poverty, are equally given consideration and have access to actionable and timely warning messages. There are many reasons why the most vulnerable members of a community do not get the early warning messages they need to reduce their disaster risks and be prepared. Local governments have limited capacity and resources to proactively engage with all the stakeholders of a community. Further, the exclusion of vulnerable groups in decision-making processes limits the effectiveness, universality, and actionability of early warning messages disseminated at the community level. So thank you for joining us today to understand community perspectives while setting up early warning systems that put communities and their diverse needs at the center focus. Since this is a long session, we've tried our best to make the session as interactive as possible. We hope each of you can take back at least one reflection while also enjoying yourself in the process. So without further delay, I would like to invite our keynote speaker, Mr. Dharam Upreti. So to introduce Mr. Dharam Upreti, he is a member of Duryog Nivaran, a South Asian network on DRR. Duryog Nivaran is an active member of the global SEM for DRR, as well as the lead for the gender stakeholder group in the region. Mr. Upreti has over 20 years of experience in climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction, and early warning systems. He currently serves as the thematic lead for climate and resilience at Practical Action South Asia in Kathmandu. He holds a PhD in environmental sciences and has often been an official delegate for the government of Nepal. He will share his thoughts on gender inclusive DRR. EWS. Okay, he doesn't seem to be here. Okay, sorry. Okay, so maybe we can move on and we can start with our next segment till Mr. Upreti joins us. So we will now, I hand over the stage to my colleagues, Ms. Happy Remawati, who is the Regional Coordinator, East and Southeast Asia and Europe at GNDR, and Ms. Jacqueline Lippi, who is the Research and Policy Officer at GNDR. So they will help us with a simulation exercise.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today we will be doing a simulation exercise where I will be sharing with you a disaster situation, and we would have few of those chits with me and my colleagues moving around, and we'll give it to you at your table. And you'll have to pick up your chits when we say you can open it and try to think what actions you would take when that disaster is about to strike, when you have the early warning. So let me first read out what is the situation that we have. So Typhoon Passy, public warning, 15th October 2024. So the Typhoon Passy threatens Manila with devastating impact, red alert issued. The Philippines is bracing for the landfall of Super Typhoon Passy, currently an extremely severe storm located over the Philippine Sea. Moving in a southeast direction, the typhoon is forecasted to strike the coastal areas of Manila during the late afternoon to the evening hours of October 15th, which is today, with wind speed reaching a dangerous 175 to 220 km per hour and potentially exceeding 240 km per hour. The typhoon possesses a serious threat to life and property. The landfall coincides with a regular office working day, which is today. We all are here working, adding to the challenges of ensuring public safety in a densely populated Manila city. So you would see my colleagues distributing the chits. Each chit will have a character, but I would request not to open it till we request you to. So continuing with the key alerts that NDMO has issued. So the wind speed will intensify throughout the day, gradually increasing to a huge force. And as the landfall is announced, the wind speed would reach till 250 km per hour. It is also announced that it is a red alert and heavy rainfall is expected, and it also might lead to flooding. I would now request Happy to share with us the rest of the red alerts and the situations. But you can also now open the sheets and think how you would respond for each of the characters.
Okay, not everybody got the cheats. Yeah, so only several people in the desk, in the table. Yeah, you may. Yeah, you may open it for those who get the cards. Yeah, and read your role. Think of what you can do from that particular situations. Red warning, immediate action required. Red warning, immediate action required. Red warning, immediate action required. In anticipation of the impending storm, the National Disaster Management Office has issued a red warning for Manila and surrounding coastal areas, approximately 300 kilometers. This level of alert calls for urgent actions to protect lives and minimize damage. The following severe conditions are expected. Wind speed. The winds will intensify throughout the day, gradually increasing to gale force levels. By the time of landfall, wind speed are predicted to range between 175 and 220 km per hour, with gusts up to 240 km per hour. This will likely cause widespread damage to infrastructures, homes, power lines, along with the uprooting of trees and severe risk to anyone outdoors. Heavy rainfall, continuous heavy to very heavy rainfall is forecasted in Manila and neighboring province, with significant risk of floodings, particularly in low-lying and coastal areas. This relentless downpour, compounded by the powerful winds, increase the likelihood of storm surge and flash floods, threatening lives and property in flood-prone regions. Flood warnings. Provinces along the coast near Manila are expected to experience dangerous level of floodings. Rivers, drainage system, and floodplains are anticipated to overflow, potentially cutting off access to critical areas. Residents in these regions are urged to take immediate precautions and move to higher ground. Please respond accordingly, according your situations. So if you in this room, you can assume which place is the higher ground. So if you see the stage is the place of a higher ground, and on my right side is the shelter, the safe shelter when you can be safe.
Check. Okay. Ma'am, could you first please explain the parameters of your exercise, because a lot of the participants does not know that they need to perform.
You're all the participants, though only few people got the hints. Yes.
So I think all of you all have received a chit, or some of you all have, right? Those who have received and a warning has been issued, if you are that person, what will you do? Right? And as they have shared, shelter and higher ground. So you have 5 minutes to think of what you have to do and act on it. Yeah? Nothing. They have the character. They know what is happening. Okay. One was.
So with the early warning, we also have the situation where the services are disrupted. The public transportation services across Manila was being halted due to dangerous road condition and flooding. So now think how would you evacuate based on the situation that you have. So we have 5 minutes. So the situation is escalating. The rainfall is increasing and also the flooding situation. The government and the disaster response team are working tirelessly to manage the evacuation, provide shelter and mitigation. However, the ongoing flooding and transportation breaks down is making it difficult for the emergency services to reach the needy. So when the emergency services are not able to reach you, how the community would help themselves? So you have 5 minutes. So you have a higher ground and a shelter. The shelter is right on my right.
Do we have to act it out?
No, it's fine.
No, do we have to just write? Or
No, you can just act it out. Like you've come here, so you're fine.
come here to the...
And also the communities are being continuously informed by the local authorities of the serious situation that is happening. So if this is the situation, how you would react to the early warning? So you have a red alert of typhoon and for a flooding. You need to evacuate. You have a red alert for typhoon and flooding in Manila City, and you need to evacuate. You need to evacuate because of the typhoon and the flooding early warning, which has been shared by NDMO. It's a red alert, red alert, red alert for cyclone and flooding in Manila City. And the government services are not able to reach you because of the disruption of the services. How would you as a community help yourself? Red alert, red alert, red alert. It's a red alert for flooding and typhoon in Manila City, and evacuation warning is issued by NDMO. Okay. All good? Have you all taken actions because of the red alert? Yes? No? Yes? Okay, raise your hand if you have taken action of the red alert.
Because some cannot evacuate because the road is blocked, and some they are not willing because they are indigenous and they feel that they don't need to evacuate.
Okay,
We cannot have
so that table raised hand.
yeah, I mean they want to give response. Yeah.
Okay,
I think we can wrap up and
okay,
some reflection.
okay, okay.
Okay, thank you. Yes, just stay where you are. Stay where you are, and we would like to hear from you. For those that have moved from the table and those that are staying. Yes, yeah, we want to know your thoughts.
So we said this is a higher ground. So why did you evacuate to the higher ground? What leads to take this action? And I know you were visually impaired when you evacuated. Okay.
So basically, when I was during the scenario, I was advised of my role, and then I put on the mask, so I couldn't really see anything. And I assumed during that time, if I was actually at risk, I would try and ready my stuff already for evacuation. And then afterwards, a neighbor went to my house and told me that we will be evacuating since it's very dangerous. She guided me towards higher ground. I actually could not see what I was. I'm very surprised that I'm here on stage, but yeah, she just led me to the stage and she said that I should sit down, so I sat down. So yeah, so basically it was my neighbor who told me to get to the higher ground and guided me to the higher ground. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So shall we request the next character that we had is a lactating woman. Do we have any lactating women who came to the shelter, and we have anybody who is still in the audience with a lactating women character? Okay, two.
Lactating mother daw. Anyway, so the situation I am reading right now, the context is I'm a lactating mother with a 2.5-year-old son or daughter. Sorry, it's a daughter. And then my husband is away, and I'm living actually on the 5th floor, but I'm helpless. I am not empowered. So what I'm already thinking right now is the solution. So we must empower women to be able to this lady to have power so she can do on her own and save her life and also her son. So I'm thinking of the solution because given the context, I'm helpless. The shelter is 5 kilometers away, and then the neighbor has only one bicycle, and then I really don't know where to go because they mentioned that the shelter is 5 kilometers away, but I don't know where it is. So it is completely clear that women are not involved during the preparedness, awareness, community-based early warning system of the community. So that's my situation.
Thank you. And in converse, I think Sir moved to this shelter with the baby. Yeah. So, can you share your thoughts?
Yeah, I think our scenario is the same that the previous was explaining. They're more interesting here that my husband is now at home. He's outside for the walk. Suddenly, when the meteorology agency announced that there is a dangerous, what I need to do? I am just along with my baby. And my baby condition is fever. And I have no information for our neighbors. So what I need to do, I need to take care of my baby, that his conditions now is favor to the shelters. That's why I hold my baby and go to the shelters. That's my situation. So it means that the human, we encourage the human as strong as the men. When the emergency situation, no need to the men, but the women have the power to go. They find solution by themselves to the shelter. Thank you.
So we have another character. If you're a student, anybody got if you're a student?
Student.
Yes.
I'm a mature age student, but you never stop learning, right? So my scenario is that actually I'm fairly well informed and paid close attention to the typhoon as it was developing, understood the risk and the impact that the typhoon has and when it would make landfall, so I was very well informed. I also knew about the location of this shelter, and I also had a desire to help others. So my task was to help neighbours to understand where to evacuate, but also to understand what their risk was. But I had a limitation that I could only tell 2 neighbours. So what I set about doing was using the knowledge I had, sharing it, and asking neighbours to come to the shelter, but also the ones that I couldn't bring with me, asking them to stay behind and tell others, to spread the word. So I think the message here is to be informed, regardless of your age. So there is an assumption that students are young, but I'm here to confirm that students are of all ages. But really, on a serious note, to be aware, but also to empower the youth. If we, most students are young statistically, but to empower them to share their knowledge with others, but also to stay well informed and to share that knowledge with others in their community to ensure their safety. So thank you.
Thank you so much. The next character we have, you are a tourist from UK who arrived in Manila 2 days back for a vacation.
All right, so participant number 6, context is you are a tourist from the UK who arrived in Manila 2 days back for a vacation. You are staying at a seaside resort, you have woken up to heavy rains and strong winds. The sky is very overcast and you are unsure if this is just a rainy day or something more. You cannot understand the warning that has been issued as it is in Filipino. Only the hotel receptionist speaks proper English, but he is on leave today. The other hotel staff don't seem to be able to understand anything you're asking. You don't know if there are any shelters nearby and what the protocol is for evacuation. So for me, first and foremost would be use my phone if there's any signal. Search who is the agency that is involved in hydrometeorology in my location. And then while doing that, probably go to a safer location since I'm at the seaside. And if it is raining heavily and the wind is picking up, so my first instinct would be find a location away from the sea. And then probably after knowing who's the agency involved in hydromet, my next task should be search if there is any online available data or information for the location that I'm in, because normally here in the Philippines, plans are uploaded online depending on where you're at. So that would be, I think, my 3 steps. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Just a quick reflection and a key maybe follow-up question. We had a higher ground. So if you'd like to share why you haven't evacuated to the higher ground, which is not there in the paper, but when we gave the warning, it was there, and then internet service is disconnected.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I didn't hear that. I was busy with this, sorry. So if that's gonna be the case, and if there's no internet service, that would be my priority. It would be to go to a higher location and then probably look for a person there who could understand me, who would be able to give me the proper protocol, basically, for my location. That would be it. Thank you.
Thank you. There's also one twist which we gave is that if the early warning is issued in Filipino and a tourist from UK, how would you respond? Okay, quickly to the next character, which we have a man who is currently at work, like all of us today. The power has gone off and your mobile phone has lost internet connection. The battery is running dangerously low. Okay.
This side?
Okay. All right. So this says the father is supposed to pick kids up as he lost all the connection and everything, and only he consented to pick kids up in emergencies, which we believe the wife should have also signed the papers to pick kids up, as the nearest safe shelter is closer to the house, and some sort of early warning talk should have been happened in the neighbors so they could have helped the wife to pick kids up. And then we believe the info among local radios through radios or something should have been in the place. What else you want to add?
And local power group, as a neighbor power group, has to help the wife to find the nearest shelter, and to inform her as a helping group, to inform her that the strike is coming, or that something could happen.
Exactly. There's one more gap I would like to mention here. The father doesn't know what kind of emergency simulation exercises took place at school. This could have been communicated with the parents as well. That's it. Thank you.
I also want to add some points. Because the children get some emergency simulations. So drills, this type of the drills to cope with these emergencies, everybody should have to do by yourself and the family as well, so that the situation can be handled easily. And one of the things, safety kit, it should be in every home. So that it can be used in this type of the situation. The situation is very tricky, and surely the male or female who is in situation in field in his life must be feel his or herself as helpless. So these are the takeaways, not only for sharing. It is a takeaways for ourselves as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Actually, it's a very tricky situation. The idea is that if you're a man, if you're in office, you have to go to a shelter. You just have 5 minutes. So do you go back home to pick your kids and your wife because they doesn't know the way, or you evacuate with your colleagues immediately because you just have 5 minutes? So just a food for thought. We know it's a tricky situation. Okay, next, quickly on the next character is the elderly women. Anyone? Anyone got elderly women? Yes.
Here. Yes, good afternoon. The situation or scenario given to our group or to us is the case of an elderly woman who is relying on the support of a caregiver. But the duty of the caregiver is only in the morning until nearly evening, 12 hours duty. One day, there is an occurrence of heavy rains and strong winds. There was an alert coming from the radio or announcement that they need to evacuate from the building. Actually, the location of the elderly woman is at the 4th floor. And they need to evacuate from the 4th floor to the nearest shelter, which will be around 10 minutes. But in the case of the elderly woman, being had a hard time with her situation, unfortunately on that morning, her caregiver were not able to be on duty through her advice. So I think in this case, and it will take her, instead of 10 minutes with her case, 20 minutes. So with the pressure also of the time allotted just to reach the nearest shelter would be a challenge for the elder woman. So in this case, I think the first thing to do is to be aware of the emergency hotlines. Because in this case, she cannot do it alone. From the 4th floor, going down to the shelter area, with herself alone. So one immediate resort is to call for assistance to the right group or agency which she can reach for help. But as long as the communication lines is still active, because according to the situation, heavy rains and strong winds is ongoing already. But in the case that the communication lines is cut off, I think the nearest thing that she can ask for help is maybe a neighbor in the building who can assist her going down. But in that second case, if it's not possible already, the third maybe is to initiate sourcing any kind of material which you can produce sound as a warning system indicating that you really need urgent help. So maybe in our own household, the simplest one, we have whistle, which we usually take resource. So that's it.
Thank you so much. Very well planned evacuation. So okay, so we have few of them here. As we said, right side of me is a cyclone shelter, and we saw student, and few of them has evacuated to the shelter. So we'd like to have quick reflections from them. Someone who came to the cyclone shelter.
So we were residents living nearby the shelter. So once we heard the alert, we were able to evacuate easily.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. We had two more characters. The one is the indigenous community. Anyone got indigenous?
And hello everyone. As you can see, we haven't evacuated, but let's give you a quick context or situation as to why it happened. So it says here that we are a member of an indigenous community living at a distance from the main community. And based on our traditional knowledge and experience, we feel that a typhoon is on its way and will make a landfall in our location. So there are radio announcements that confirm our thoughts as an IP, and they are asking us to evacuate to the shelter that we have heard that they've built last year. And the main community members treat our community members badly and we would prefer to keep a distance rather. And we also don't trust local leaders, as they have been trying to gain access to the land you live on to build a new market building. So the government has also tried to evacuate us many times before. And as you can see, we don't evacuate, so we are the only, we will stay here, as what Ms. Vanda said. And so I'd like to share a few insights as to why this happens. And I think this was also mentioned in the situation, or there has been a dispute when it comes to the attempts to claim the ancestral lands of our indigenous people for building market communities or marketable opportunities. And when it comes to these, there have been displacements to the indigenous people. And another point as to why it happens is the armed conflict, which is why there is a growing distrust into the government. And then when it comes to the early warning system, majority of the early warning system is focused on our urban communities. So again, they have their own indigenous practices. And I'd like to share one of the learnings that I got from a booth yesterday. Let me read the badge that I got from them. Yeah, so there's an indigenous practice that was shared to us by the National Disaster Management Authority from Pakistan. So they built a community where the volunteers would leave at the mountain ranges, and then they would wave red scarf. That means evacuation. So that's a community initiative, and their indigenous practices or their own early warning systems. But aside from that, we should also call for the formulation or to fight for their social-cultural rights, to fight discrimination, because again, it was mentioned here that the community treats them badly. And yeah, they should be also included for the risk mapping and the formulation of early warning system. Thank you.
Thank you. The last character, community leader.
Good afternoon. So for the community leader, the context is the community is located in a low-lying area and is often flooded even when there is a moderate rainfall. And you have received a warning from the government official about the typhoon. You are currently not physically present in the community, and the government official is asking you to continuously to update him about the situation. You are stuck in the traffic, and it seems unlikely that you will be able to reach your family and community members in the next 2 hours. You just realized as well that the emergency dry food packets and water were not replenished in the shelter, and you are under pressure to immediately gauge the gravity of the situation and take actions for your family and the community members. So first thing that I'm gonna do, since on the perspective of being a community leader, since there's no internet connection as well, assuming that assuming that the radios are available, make sure to ensure continuous communication with your community leaders. Usually here in the Philippines, it is already established that every barangay, which is the smallest political unit in the Philippines, has its own DRM committees. And with those, in that DRM committee, there's a dedicated government official handling the DRM. So first things first is to, since I'm not physically present in my community, it would be ideal to ensure continuous communication with the DRM committee head so that we can ensure situational awareness. That's the first thing that we have to do. Second, if it reaches the threshold, usually in every barangay, there's already an unidentified threshold value where they should evacuate already. And since on the context or the scenario given to us, usually it's already flooded when there is a moderate rainfall, and the rainfall warning is already heavy rainfall. So we're assuming that they are already being evacuated. Hence, we also need to activate their contingency plans. And in every contingency plan, there are identified response clusters who are responsible to do response actions for each of the cluster. And for this one, since I've realized that that the dry food packets and water were not yet replenished, let's make sure to coordinate with the head of the food and non-food items cluster so that these necessities are being provided to the communities. And when they are already evacuated, make sure to also deploy other human and physical resources, like maybe the health cluster can already assist in the social cluster in already profiling the evacuees so that they can know how many are male, how many are female, so they can also better strategize their response actions, like maybe what food are they gonna eat in the coming days, or what are the needed, what do you call this? What are the needed facilities inside the evacuation centers? Maybe we can already establish lactating areas or violence against women desk. So all of those other stuff should also be taken into consideration during the process. Thank you.
I really appreciate that you go into the shoes of a community leader and thought everything in detail. Thank you so much. I hand it over to Ipshita.
So thank you, Happy and Jacqueline, and I hope all of you all had a bit of fun and reflections. We can clap for them. Right. So now we do have our keynote speaker here with us today. He is from Duryog Nivaran, South Asian Network on DRR. Duryog Nivaran is an active member of the Global SEM for DRR, as well as the lead for the gender stakeholder group in the region. Mr. Dharam Opreti has over 20 years of experience in climate change adaptation, disaster risk reduction and early warning systems, and currently serves as a thematic lead for climate and resilience at Practical Action South Asia in Kathmandu. He holds a PhD in environmental sciences, and he has often been an official delegate for the government of Nepal. He will share his thoughts on gender-inclusive early warning systems.
Hi, good morning. Sorry, good afternoon. Confused because of the number of sessions I have attended since morning. Well, here, my name Dharam Upreti. I'm from Practical Action, and Practical Action is a network of Duryog Nivaran. Duryog Nivaran engaged in research, advocacy, and strengthening disaster governance in South Asia regions. And of course, being my role as a thematic lead for climate and resilience, I have been working in many Asian countries, including Nepal. Our focus particularly is strengthening early warning system, strengthening risk communication, strengthening complex physical science information that are actionable and reachable to the communities so that communities can take action. So action is really important. That is what our crux. So making physical science understandable using different approaches. So number one approach, we work with communities using citizen science approach. Citizens, they should understand what complex science tells us. For example, the threshold, if 300 millimeter of rainfall occurred in 24 hours, what does that mean to the communities? What does that mean if 624 millimeter rainfall that occurred in Nepal on July 7 this year, 624 millimeter in 24 hours, that resulted flooding, but no casualties, except 2 casualties were there because of the devastation. That is something what we work, not only the practical action, but practical action has over the 20 years of experience in early warning system. Strengthening early warning system means strengthening governance, strengthening the institutional capacity to understand what does it mean if the Met Authority issue a bulletin saying there is a chances of heavy rainfall in a particular area in west or south or north. So that is what we have been working, number one. Second, strengthening citizen science means it should be inclusive, bringing different voices so that those voices, unheard voices, heard by the authorities, decision makers. So using missing voice approach that we have introduced in 2015, tested over many countries, over the period like 6 or 7 years, and then when we realize it's proven to be effective to bring the missing voices into the policy, You can download it, you can see it, missing voice approach of practical action. So that is something very useful tool to communicate the unheard, marginalized voices to the decision support system of the government. Then third approach is CRMC approach, climate resilience measurement for communities. Initially, we started from flood resilience measurement for communities. It's a single hazard approach of building resilience using 44 sources of indicator. So what are the sources? Those sources that the communities need to be adopted to build their resilience. What does resilience for A community means, and what does the B community, when they qualify for resilient communities. So using those 44 sources of resilience, we claim that this A community is weaker in physical capital, and then B community is stronger in natural capital, and C community is stronger in social capital. So in a weaker approach, we work to make that weaker approach weaker resilience to make it strong resilience. So that is the CRMC, FRMC to CRMC approach. And then finally, we build community capacity, linking communities with stakeholders, mainly the government stakeholders. Because communities, they are doing fantastic work. Annually, celebrating Environmental Day, June 5, is now a kind of fest in different hundreds of communities in Nepal. They celebrate June 5 as a kind of national festival. The festival is just organizing this type of mock drill, what we had just before here in this room. So what does it mean if flood in a particular river cross the danger level? So when Met authorities send mock messages, a particular A river, the Karnali River, for example, the largest river of Nepal, that has a devastating impact to the downstream communities. When the Met authorities send mock message, warning level, Karnali River in a station where the gauge station is located. Now the gauge stations are like telemetry. We don't need to monitor it manually because we can monitor those the river discharge system directly to the Met authorities of Nepal. And then when that crossed the warning level, Met authorities send a SMS alert to the mobile phone, to respected polygon, where communities receive SMS message of warning. And then when the river crossed the danger level, 10.8 meter is the danger level for that river, and then communities start evacuation. So there are a number of task forces we have formed, like early warning task force, communication task force, search and rescue task force. Those community-led volunteers, they work very hard to evacuate. They start evacuating the elderly, they start evacuating the lactating women, and they start evacuating the disabled people. So all those disability inclusive approach we introduced at a community. Then finally, risk transfer, because risk reduction measure doesn't alone work for overall disaster risk reduction paradigm. So we need to introduce risk transfer mechanism. That means insurance. We have introduced parametric flood insurance in one of the largest river, Karnali River, and then it was tested very well and tested 3 times, and we got government approval of that parametric insurance, and then now it's, the willingness from the communities is really strong, and so that is the application of early warning system, making parametric insurance for flood. So we can test it for heat, we can test it for cold wave, if we make a threshold or benchmarking for danger warning or above danger level. So that is the ecosystem of early warning system. Understanding the hazard knowledge. What is the particular hazards impacting the communities? So that is really important. So we work in 4 pillars of early warning system. Yeah, finish. And then second, strengthening communication, monitoring and communication system, then dissemination system, and build community capacity. So that is the 4 pillars of early warning system are really stronger. need to be stronger, and upscaling those good practices is really essential if we really want to build community capacity in a changing climate scenarios. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Upreti. Let us now move on to our panel discussion to understand different community perspectives relevant to early warning systems. I would like to introduce the moderator for the discussion, Mr. Takeshi Komino. After engaging in humanitarian operations in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Myanmar, and Thailand, Takeshi Komino established CWS Japan during the East Japan earthquake and tsunami response. He currently serves as the board and general secretary of CWS Japan. He is also the vice president and a member of the executive committee of the Asian Disaster Reduction and Response Network, ADRRN. He heads ADRRN Tokyo Innovation Hub, serves as a focal member of technical unit for DRR, Regional Advisory Group of Global Network of CSOs for Disaster Reduction, GNDR, and is the joint secretary, is part of the joint secretary of the Japan CSO Coalition for DRR, that is GCCDRR. Let us welcome Takeshi and our panelists to the dais with a round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Takeshi from ADRN, and I also am engaged in GNDR in the regional steering group. First, I would like to call each of the panelists we will have today. This is the opportunity for us to learn their perspectives. You know, in the initial segment of this session, we have done the simulation, and we also heard from Durok Nivar and colleagues about the importance of that information, sending of that critical early warning information. But early warning information gets received, and then gets comprehended, and then action is taken. So that process of comprehension and action is really dependent on where people are, what do they know, what they can do, and what they're willing to do. In order to figure this out, I think we need to hear from them. And I think we have wonderful practitioners today that we can hear from. And I would like to call one by one. The first panelist we will have is Rex Vincent. If you can approach, yes. He's a representative of the Children and Youth Stakeholder Group, UNDRR-SEM. Welcome. And he leads a mangrove conservation project focusing on sustainability and gender impact in climate action. He also engages in youth in environmental efforts and holds multiple leadership roles, including local youth development officer, former Supreme Student Council president at one of the universities in the Philippines. And they also focus on the mangrove conservation reforestation with emphasis on eco-friendly solutions, really looking for the future, right? Yes. He's actively involved in youth activities, having served as a local youth development officer in Salcedo, president of the Tagbakan Youth and Children Organization, and a member of the Secretariat of the Local Youth Development Council, among many others. So welcome, Lex. Okay. The next panelist, so I will call one by one, okay? And if you can help me welcome them to the stage, that would be great. The second panelist we will have is Emilia Bello, who is the Disaster Management Coordinator at the Timor-Leste Red Cross. Welcome. She graduated from the Bachelor of Public Health from Dili University, and she started out her career as a volunteer with the Red Cross in Timor-Leste. Since 2009, I think. She was also appointed as the Disaster Risk Reduction Manager, and she leads the coordination, planning, and implementation of the community-based institutional preparedness and response, as well as development program. So she has been actively working with Red Cross, Red Crescent movement, government institutions, local international NGOs, UN agencies, and public sector entities local authorities and communities as well through the DRM network. She's part of the Climate Change Working Group, Anticipatory Action, Early Warning System Working Group on Disaster Preparedness, Response, and Recovery Efforts. Emilia, welcome to the podium. Thank you very much. The third panelist we will have is Mr. Henry Hernowel. He's the chairman of the Disability Inclusion Forum. You can come slowly. He serves as a chairman of the Disability Inclusion Forum, which is also called FIDA-KAMA, a CSO which is actively involved in disaster preparedness and inclusion efforts in Indonesia. He's also the vice chairman of the Disability Service Unit in the district-level disaster management agency. His professional role includes developing programs for his organization, coordinating, collaborating with other stakeholders, facilitating sessions on disaster management, gender, and also disability inclusion. He also works closely with the ASB, South and Southeast Asia, and other humanitarian development organizations, and the local government to improve inclusion outcomes in disaster risk reduction and humanitarian programming. So, welcome. Thank you. Fourth panelist, oh, by the way, we'll have 5 in total, so bear with me. Fourth panelist is Miss Emily Fajardo, who is a chairperson of Kababayhang Bateono Parase Karikasen Karapatan at Pagbabgo. Sorry. In short, Kabaro. She's a community organizer. She facilitates capacity building activities for women defenders. These activities include gender awareness sensitivity trainings, understand the gendered impact of the climate change, paralegal training on women's rights, women's leadership development, and more. Kabaro organizes women in various communities and sectors and launches environment-related and gender-based campaigns. Welcome. Thank you. The fifth speaker panelist we will have on the stage is Ms. Dinar Rizky, who is the project manager at the Yakum Emergency Unit from Indonesia. Dinar is a project manager for locally led anticipatory action at the Yakum Emergency Unit, Indonesia. She has been working there for 9 years now. In 2020, she led inclusive emergency response to COVID-19 in Yogyakarta, consisting of access to vaccination for most at-risk groups, and also cash transfer programs, DRR programs, health and psychosocial support. She regularly facilitates sessions on inclusive community-based disaster risk reduction, making shelters accessible for persons with disabilities, livelihood empowerment for vulnerable groups, disaster management and emergency response in churches, schools, universities, and development of the intergenerational groups to support elderly people in community, and development of the village disaster risk management plans. And she's the advocate of the innovation in community-centered innovation, and she actively tests scale-up innovation from local innovators in Jogja. Welcome, Dina. Thank you. So, oh, there's a mic. Sorry, Rex, I made you move.
That's okay, Paul.
Apologies. Okay. So we got a few questions for each of them, and we would like to have a conversation as much as possible. After this panel, we will also have opportunity to ask questions from the floor. So if you have any questions, please note that down, and we'll have a time to ask that question. Oh, by the way, after the questions and answer session, there will be also an opportunity for you to discuss things at your table. So I hope we can make it as participatory as possible for the second half. So Rex, you're a youth representative.
Yes, boss, sir.
Welcome.
And you're the youngest on the panel also. Yes. So, from your experience, what actions can youth take when you receive the early warning messages? And in your perspective, how do youth support the dissemination of the early warning information?
Okay, sir, thank you with that question. So, as a youth, when we receive an early warning, the action that we take depends on the nature of the warning. Most of the time, some student or some youth, if we receive an orange or red rainfall warning from the NDRMC, so aside from forwarding those messages from our GC or our social media platforms, we also check class and work suspension from the authorities. But in our municipality, when it comes to typhoon, now we follow specific early warning system. Yes, and this early warning system was formulated by our community, which is a community-based early warning system. So when we receive a white alert, or it is a level 0, 7 days before the landfall of the typhoon, we prepare and check out emergency kits and go bags. And when we received a yellow alert or an alert level 1, 3 days before the landfall, we joined the barangay council to do the bandalyo. A bandalyo is a way of information dissemination of early warning, wherein we use speakers and we announce the information by street, or we go to the far-flung areas, the setios or the barrios in our barangays. And we also do the house-to-house visitation to inform the families to prepare to evacuate, especially those elderly, the children, and the persons with disability. And when we receive an orange alert or the alert level 2, 1 day before the landfall, we still do the bandalyo system, and we inform the public that the officials will enforce forced evacuation. When we receive a red alert or an alert level 3, it is during the landfall, we inform the public in the evacuation area to stay on the building, and no one is allowed to go outside the evacuation area, And the last one, I forgot to put on the slide, is the blue alert. So a blue alert, it is the safe level, wherein it is after the landfall. And we inform the public in the evacuation area that they are allowed to go outside and check their houses. And as a youth, in our generations, now wherein we have the access to the different social media platforms to support early warning system dissemination, aside from using our social media platforms like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, I think that the best way to support this early warning dissemination is to integrate DRR discussions and topics to our youth-led initiatives and youth-led actions. This is the bandalyo system wherein the youth are the one who lead and initiate this activity. And we have tree planting and mangrove tree planting as an early action, because after the Yolanda, we saw the importance of mangrove areas, and especially in protecting us from storm surge, because we believe, the youth, that nature-based solution is important. Mangrove trees, mangrove forests are most effective than our seawalls. And it is less expensive, but it is sustainable. Last one is, and this is the last one. This sexual reproductive health and rights na seminar, we do this as an early action because during and after the Yolanda, we saw and we experienced different kinds of abuses from the evacuation area. And we saw that we need to mobilize and empower our young women and women about their rights, of their reproductive health rights and their safety. Next is to integrate the early warning system and DRR in the basic life support, wherein we are empowering our youth organization, our youth members about the basic life support. And that will be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rex.
It's amazing to see so many things that you already do. I wanted to ask you one question, if I may.
Sure.
And this is not in the plan, so it's a surprise. But even in Japan also, there are people who receive the information and then who proactively take action to, to keep themselves in a safe area and be safe from these disaster events. But there are also people who don't act, who don't do anything, who are not really interested to think about how to make themselves safer, or who can't really comprehend what could happen to them. So I think you're one of the champions from youth groups, right? You understand, you take action, you take lots of action, that's amazing. When you meet with other youth who are not really interested in doing anything about disaster risk reduction, what do you tell them?
Pardon, sir?
What do you tell them? Like, what do you communicate to them in order for them to be more aware about disaster risks?
I think that it's important, in early warning system, it's important to use the localization approach because we youth, we are on the grassroots level. We understand the settings, we understand the experiences of our fellow youth, the community, and I think that when we talk and if we inform them, if we share the information, they will listen because they understand us also.
Because there's an inherent trust between you two. Yes. Thank you very much, Rex.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Okay, Emilia, you're next. Coming from Timor-Leste, Red Cross, welcome. To you, from your experience, what are the key challenges in reaching these early warning messages to communities at the front line? And also, you work a lot on preparedness, like preposition of the resources. How important is that, and how useful is that? Can you tell us?
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I go into respond to those questions, I will give you a bit background of Timor-Leste. Maybe some of you in the room already know about Timor-Leste, but some of you not. So Timor-Leste is situated between Indonesia and Australia with a total population 1.3 million. And we have faced prone to multi-hazard, for example, like flood, drought, landslide, especially more on the hydrometeorological multi-hazard. And in regards to the DRM profile in country, the Civil Protection Authority as the government lead body of disaster risk management in country, and Timor-Leste Red Cross has been part of implementing the disaster risk management in country. And aside of that also, in regards to the early warning system, we just have our national early warning system SOP in place. And with the support from the UNDRR also recently, we have a people-centered early warning, more inclusive end-to-end early warning system that focus on the vulnerable groups. And just a bit background of CVTL, Cruz Vermelha de Timor-Leste, or Timor-Leste Red Cross. We are recognized by our government to the decree law, and then we do the humanitarian organization around the country. As you all know that in each of the country we have a Red Cross and Red Crescent. We do the same activity on the humanitarian activity, support the government because we are as an auxiliary to the public authorities. We support the government in all the humanitarian services. And in regards to the early warning system, we as a national service provider, we receive some funding through the Green Climate Fund. We implement the community-based early warning system for the objective to enhance the early warning system for the hydrometeorological hazard for the build the greater resilience in Timor-Leste for the 5 years project. And we also recently signed MOU with the Civil Protection Authority and will be with the National Met Office that will be more focused on the disaster preparedness, anticipatory action, response, and recovery. So back to your question, we can think a bit in regards to our simulation exercise just recently did. We see the challenges already there. You know, when the alert is coming and only few people that evacuated to the safer area, but some is still seated because they are confusion where they want to go, or maybe the capacity building is not enough for them. They didn't well aware about the warning that they received. That's why there is no action to take upon the warning once they receive. And I want to share here that all of the countries might face the same challenges at what we face in Timor-Leste. Because of the different contexts, we also have a different challenges that we face. The first thing that I want to share here in regards with the key challenges in reaching early warning messages to the communities at the front lines. The geographical situation. You know that Timor-Leste terrain is mountainous and with many rural communities located in remote areas that are difficult to access. And the second one is in regards to the limited communication infrastructure. The mobile phones coverage and internet access also are limited, especially in rural and remote areas. The other challenges also, the weak of the community engagement and preparedness in all of the 4 elements of early warning system. The first in risk knowledge, the monitoring, the dissemination and communication, and the last one in preparedness and response capabilities. So the lack of the community engagement in these all 4 element sector is very crucial. When we didn't involve them, then they will not be part of the preparedness and to save lives and reduce the impact of the disaster that they might face. And the other constraints also related with the resources in terms of human resources, as well as the equipment and facilities that we have. Because at the moment, as you see that in Timor-Leste, not all of the villages we have early warning system established in place. This is need ongoing efforts and support from all the government institutions, INGOs, and local NGO, from the donors as well as private sector to ensure that all the communities, all the villages need to establish the early warning system. They need to equip, have a capacity building, training them, and tested the SOP simulation when there is any disaster, how they can evacuate, how they will coordinate all these challenges that we face so far. And in regards with the facilities, at the moment, we have a lack of facilities and equipment. For example, like automatic weather station. This is not localized in all villages in Timor-Leste. That's why it's very hard to have a local weather information that is specific to the village or in sub-village level. And another thing also, in regards to lack of the localization early warning system that not provide information tailored to the specific risks and vulnerabilities of the different communities. Just example that in one of the community in Timor-Leste, they believe their local traditional knowledge that they have. But they believe that when there is a butterfly came out from the hole, this is the sign that the cyclone, the high wind will happen. And this is what they believe. So we need to, how to integrate the scientific information as well as local knowledge to take action upon the information, the warning information that they receive. Another challenge is also related with the inclusive information that we provide. So far, we still have a problem with how to deal with, especially with the people with disability, with hearing as well as seeing. There is no specific, a way how to deal with them when they receive the warning. So I think this is also a big challenge, is how in the future we work together more with the organization that working with the people with disability to train the people in the community. Another challenge is also the families are ashamed to talk that they have a member of the family, because our entry point of the disaster risk reduction in the community, we start with the vulnerability and capacity assessment. We do the mapping of all of the communities with the problem, disability, elderly people, pregnant women, as well as children. We do the mapping, but the problem we face that normally they are a bit ashamed to talk that they live with the people with the disability, and this is a real, a problem. How and during the, the disaster preparedness, or we do any simulation, we didn't really involve them because we don't know in the beginning that they are present there. So I think, so far we have working together with the disability organization. We come up with the Washington DC question, the 6th Washington DC question, to ensure that every household that have people with disability, they are part of the, risk, vulnerability and risk assessment until the implementation of the disaster preparedness program in the community level. And the other challenges also, we talk about them. We didn't really invest in the household level preparedness. So far, what we did is more in community level. But what we are thinking that the household level is very important because they are stay there during their lifetime. So the important is we need to invest in this family disaster planning, list down all the contact numbers. They do simulation in the household level to test that when there is any disaster or receive any warning, how they can take action upon it. The other challenge is also the change of the government structure. Every 5 years, the government changes. So the capacity that we already provide in the 5 years back, we need to retrain again so that the local government need to have a capacity in place so that they can mobilize, they can continue to, mobilize, coordinate with the community, especially community in the disaster-prone area. And another thing also in related with the donors driven. Some donors come with a 1-year project, a 2 years project. This is a difficulty to have a sustainability at the community level. So we are thinking that for the future, how invest in the long-term project, especially for the early warning system and anticipatory action, because we all know that anticipatory action just started in the last 2 years, and now all the agencies, government, even donors are invest more in anticipatory action. Yeah, I think this is all the problems, challenges that we face so far. And another thing also, Uh, this is the last but not least. Information flows of the communities is still in challenging because there we already have, the flow chart of the once they receive information, how the information will reach the last mile. So I think the information flows to the community is still in challenge due to inadequate to the facilities and support mechanism that are in place. I think this is the key challenges that we face so far, but I know that we are all in the room, we have a different challenges. We will do the discussion during the question and answer session and breakout session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, for the donors who only provide single-year funding, what's your message? You
Yeah.
have to look at them. You can look at me.
Yeah. As you know, not only Timor-Leste faces this problem, but in other countries also, donors come with 1 year funding or 2 years because we want to change community behavior at least 3 to 5 years. Support from the donors to the community to increase their resilience. And my recommendation is there is a donor need to be coordinated. All the donors, international donors, need to be coordinated each other. Maybe the other donor that come with the 1 year project, they need to coordinate with others. Maybe they have a plan to continue there so that we can see the sustainability there. Otherwise, 1 year we cannot change the community behavior. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So longer-term commitment is important. Thank you. All right, Henry. Welcome. To you, I wanted to ask, so what should be done to make early warning system more disability inclusive, accessible and actionable? And also what the disability organization can contribute for more inclusive early warning system and what support is needed to make that happen? If you can share your ideas, it'll be great.
Thank you for your question. Okay, thank you for your question. I'll try to reflect on my experience, especially in Magelang, that have two main hazard. There is volcanoes eruption and landslide. We know that there are 4 principles of effective and inclusive early warning system. First, we will talk about disaster risk knowledge. As person with disability, almost we know about information and knowledge about disaster we got from workshop. In fact, some person with disability seem to less enthusiasm during the activity that's delivered in workshop format, because sometimes it's lack of accessibility. Because in the workshop just provide PPT slide, not in accessible format. For example, they don't provide screen reader friendly, or they don't give enough support for deaf with sign language interpreter. And maybe we can do more others mode rather than use workshop. For example, coaching or mentoring, because people-centered is quite better than in group. Also, we can equip with storytelling, because it gives more chance for person with disability to express their experience freely without or no worries about a lot of jargon, about international, national, and local regulation, or I think it's make people with disability can show uh, what they know about their life, and um, move to the second. It's about forecasting and monitoring. Yeah, I'm happy when, as a chairman of Vidakama, I have chance to be invited in ceremony when installing early warning. It's about landslide hazard, but I don't know what's the purpose. I attend the ceremony because they don't give me the exact position in the early warning mechanism. Maybe we can discuss more about it later, because it's very hard how to encourage or involve person with disability in forecasting or monitoring. It's sometimes fancy for me and my community. And the third is about dissemination information and communication risk. Yeah, there are inaccessible format for a certain type of disability. For example, for me as a person with visual impairment, sometimes it's quite hard to know about the message. But we don't think if we have to serve every single kind of disability. Maybe we have to think about intersectionality with provide multi-format or multimodal media. Or in simple way, we can consider everything that we have. For example, we have a gadget, and in our gadget there are accessibility menu. Why we don't use it? And in social media like Instagram, there is alternative text. If you post and put alternative text, it will help a person with visual impairment. And talking about website, in global level, we have the abbreviation is WCAG, or Web Content Accessibility Guideline, and now version 2.2. I think in practice we don't use it. And other about information and communication, we have to consider how to deliver the message. I mean the content of message. Sometimes it's adds more anxiety because the message like give a lot of information, and we have to think more about mental disability. Sometimes I read the message, I feel more anxiety. You can imagine if the message received by a person with mental health or mental disability. And we have to pay attention in the content by avoiding a lot of jargon, if, what I said before. And okay. Okay. And I think we have to less measurement information because sometimes it's not too beneficial for a person with disability. And the last about message, it's have to clear what we have to do. On other word, it's about actionable. And the last, we talk about preparedness and yeah, we talk about preparedness and this yeah. Oh no, preparedness and response. I mean, yeah, preparedness and response. It's very unique when we today. Yeah, I mean, in the first of this event, we do simulation. It's related to my experience when preparing the simulation related to volcanic eruption simulation. They don't engage person with disability. So it's like scenario that all participant is person without disability that play a role as a disability. So they don't receive the exact situation when a disaster occurred. And about preparation, we have to think about the general knowledge from person with disability. I mean, we have in evacuation phase, we have to consider about how to help them accessible and to guarantee the dignity. If you just help them, sometimes it's not too useful, but give more barrier. Yeah, and talk about preparedness and response. Person with disability need to be involved in all level and stages of development early warning system. What I mean, we have to think about from the scratch how to make the initial planning, how to do monitoring and evaluation. We have always engage person with disability. Also, person with disability need to be involved when designing the shelter or protocol and other strategy of disaster management. And talking about what yes, we will talk move to OPD. I mean, Organization of Person with Disability. We can support for some. I mean, we can contribute in providing data. Yeah, providing service for rehabilitation because disaster and disability have a relationship. When disaster occur, maybe it's maybe the number of people with disability will arise, or the accessible facility damage and inaccessible. Yeah, and the last is we are the champion in our community that understand about disability issues. And what we need to present or to uh, to co- yeah, sorry, what's your question for
So
the second?
Yeah. The second one
Sorry.
was
What needs?
what disability organization can contribute to more inclusive early
Yeah,
warning
and-
system, and you were saying you are the professional about disability.
Yeah.
So ask us, right?
Yeah. What's DPOs need to?
Yes. What support do you need?
Yeah. What DPOs support need first is about trust for every stakeholder, and the second is about leveling skills. For example, how do we manage our organization, how to increase leadership in member of organization, and the last is about how do we access the funding. I mean, we want to know how to get suitable investor or donor. So in my conclusion is teach us to fish and don't give us fish. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Excellent. By the way, Henry, you live in Jogja, right?
In Magelang is about 40 kilometers north of Yogyakarta.
Okay, all right. So colleagues in Yogyakarta are also, as he said, are constant threat of Mount Merapi eruption.
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
people with disability there always need to be ready to act
Yeah.
with that eruption risks.
Yeah.
And I got the opportunity to learn about your work through the ADRN Innovation Hub actions, and
Yeah.
I'm really admiring what you do. So thank you,
Okay.
Henry.
I can add. Okay. In 2021, we conduct a program in Sumber Village. It's disaster-prone area of Merapi, and we try to understand the characteristic of the Sumber. They have diverse of religion or faith, and also they have a lot of local wisdom. Like in the Sumber village, they can do or they cannot use the sound for early warning. In their culture, but we know if Sumber society love traditional performance. It's like traditional dramas. We call it ketoprak. So we try to use the ketoprak as a campaign activity. So we plan to perform the ketoprak that include person with disability as actor, and someone that tackle the instrument, musical instrument, and it's very helpful to make the environment that people with disability, elderly people, how to interact each other during the during the exercise. Yeah, during the exercise before they perform, because we Oh, sorry, because I'm nervous, so I will change to bahasa
Yes,
Indonesia.
yes.
No problem.
Yes, yes,
No
you can
worries.
speak in
Okay.
Bahasa. You can translate, you know.
Yeah, maybe Mbak Dinar can help me to translate it. Ya, kita di situ mencoba untuk menggunakan ketoprak sebagai cara untuk mensosialisasikan PRB inklusi.
Sorry. So Vidakama use ketoprak as methods to promote about disaster risk reductions at their area.
Ya, sejak dari awal latihan itu sangat bermanfaat untuk mereka bisa saling berinteraksi satu sama lain, saling mengenal bagaimana karakteristik penyandang disabilitas, lansia, dan orang dari berbagai jenis kepercayaan atau agama.
So they use this ketoprak to they can interact to the others. They know about the others. They know about the barriers of people with disability. For example, people with disability with blinds can know about the people with disability with the others. And they can know about the barriers.
Nah, setelah proses persiapan selesai,
since beginning, after the finishing the process,
ya mereka mempertunjukkan atau perform di satu malam di tempat yang sudah dilengkapi dengan berbagai jenis aksesibilitas.
They perform in a stage, but the stage is the stage is accessible for them.
Ya, karena di situ kita di Jawa sebutnya pendopo atau sebuah ballroom yang sudah ada guiding block-nya, sudah ada RAM, dan ada interpreter saat drama itu dilaksanakan.
Yes, actually they perform at a traditional Javanese traditional house because you know Javanese traditional house have stairs and the other things. But at their project they provide for the accessibility. There are like RAM, there are like interpreter. They provide for examples a sign language interpreter.
Ya. Dan intinya dengan menggunakan budaya yang ada bisa menjadi alat untuk mempromosikan PRB inklusi, termasuk early warning system.
Yes, so Henry said that culture can be promoted to promote for early warning systems, including disaster risk reductions.
Okay, thank you, Henry. Thank you very much for your insights. Thank you. Emily, yes. To you, it's more related with gender responsive early warning system. So do women experience disaster or early warning message differently? And also, what are the top 3 priority actions required from your perspective to make early warning system more gender responsive?
Magandang hapon po sa lahat. Good afternoon, everyone. Before I answer the question, allow me first to introduce my organization. Sure. Our organization is Kababaihang Bataenyo para sa Kalikasan, Karapatan at Pagbabago. Kabaro. In English, it's Women of Bataan. Bataan is a province in the Philippines, which is for protection of environment, rights, and for the change. So this is a province organization of women composed of youth and students, community women, community fishers, women fishers, farmers, women workers, and workers' rights advocates and professionals in the province. Kabaro is working to promote and protect women's rights and welfare, gender equality, women's empowerment, and environmental justice through awareness and education, campaign, women's organization, and policy advocacies. So about the question to how do women experience disasters at early warnings is differently. Apart from from the natural disasters, we in Bataan have been experiencing the impacts of human-made disasters. Have been experiencing disasters such as recent the oil spill disaster and the pollution caused by the coal-fired power plants operating in near our communities. Because of structural inequities, the impact of disasters to women is more complex. Particularly, in our experience, the women carry the heaviest burden during disasters as it illuminates the socio-economic, cultural, and political inequities that women experience. For example, when disaster strikes, the women cannot just leave and evacuate because they don't have money as they are left at home and to tend their children and stay at home. Because they lack of money, the need to store for emergency food ahead of the disaster is difficult despite the need to do so. Another example is the difficulties that women face during disasters, especially maintaining hygiene and their reproductive needs. Given the evacuation center usually don't have clean and hygienic toilets, women are prone to reproductive health issues, especially to those who are having menstrual period or are pregnant. Also, potential risks for gender-based violence such as sexual harassment and abuse are likely to happen in evacuation centers where the women are vulnerable. Also, domestic violence is likely high during disasters. Due to pressure brought by the situation, the chance of being physically hit by your partner or husband is very high. The mental stress that these disasters are causing to women is also different, as the women are those who take charge in the safekeeping of belongings, emergency supplies, and ensuring the welfare of children, elderly, and if there are persons with disabilities, they also manage the house. Thus, women suffer more if and in case of loss of belongings and properties during disaster. Even during relief distribution, relief assistance are provided to men as the heads of the family and not to women. Even sanitary napkins are not belong to the relief. Likewise, the early warning systems provide substantial information in order for women to be prepared for the risk of a disaster. And we believe that preparedness is key factor in determining our anticipatory action. It is relies on the awareness of the risks and hazards. Thus, in our experience, in our women leaders who are proactive in documentation, data gathering, analyzing the data and information, and engaging the local government units and agency, as the men are always out and sometimes are embarrassed to do the work. The women oftentimes are the first to be aware on the risks because are more engaged in community compared to men. So in terms of news information, the women are the first to get the information. They are also ones who often solicit resources for the community and for their families. The information they get then transferred by word of mouth and used during the forecasting and installation or implementation of early warning system. The women also are the ones who often solicit for the communities and their families. What also significant in the participation of our members in the communities in developing the warning system, what messages are we going to communicate? And what channels are we going to utilize to transmit the information or the messages? Likewise, communicating a feedback is also asked from the sectors and communities to ensure the real-time information and shared and for the response to be relevant.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. And this role of women and leaders who are women, I think is fantastic. You know, yesterday, ADRN held this local leaders forum where the 4 local champions were awarded. Out of the 4, 3 were women. 3 were women. And you demonstrated the example of these leaders who are women in the community who are trying to break these barriers for the entire community. So really hats off to all they do, all you do. And we would love to learn more from them, their experience as well. But thank you, Emily, for sharing your perspective. Dinar, by the way, thank you very much for translating earlier.
Sorry.
So you're from Yakam Emergency Unit.
Yes, right.
So NGO, CSO. And what are from your perspective, what are the roles of CSO for end-to-end early warning system going to the last mile? What are the challenges also that you see that hinders the communities to understand, comprehend, and take action after getting that warning information?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity you give to me. Actually, if I want to tell about roles of CSO, especially at early warning system and the challenge, maybe I can tell you 1 day or 2 days because I think it's very long, right? So that I will make simplify about the roles of the CSO. I think CSO have a significant roles on the end-to-end early warning systems. Why? Because we are engaged with community. We work together with community. We work together with governments. We work together with private sector, academicism, and also with people with disability organizations and local organizations. And it's why we have our roles to address the problems at the local area. And I think actually CSO bring critical local knowledge. CSO also have bring community trust, and also we collect on the ground capacity. So making us pivotal in every phase of an early warning system. So maybe I can make 2 roles, at least. We have 2 roles. The first is CSOs as a catalyst, capacity strengtheners, and collaborators. Actually, we play important roles to speed up an all society approach for resilience. For examples, maybe a lot of CSOs years, and we always facilitating and support local organizations to do local actions. And it's why we always map communities' capacities. What's the gap, what's the challenge, addressing in early warning systems. And it's why communities say they think that early warning system is not accessible for them. Women said they don't know about the early warning system means about. And when, for example, like flood, women, they don't know about the signs. What should they do? And it's why it's also difficult to be monitored by them. And sometimes early warning system is too expensive to build. So like a community, they can't, because they don't have like a lot of funds, so they cannot develop by them. And it's why Yakum Emergency Units, through community-led innovation partnership, or we call it CLIP, we collaborate with people with disability organizations. We collaborate with women organizations. We collaborate with faith-based organizations at local levels. What they do to manage the local fund or innovation funds. They map about their risk. They know their risk, what the hazard, what the challenge, what their capacity, what the vulnerability, and after that, they know what should they do. And the action plan is develop early warning systems. So the innovation fund give opportunity to them to develop early warning system as well as their needs. Because for examples like Mas Henry said, sometimes the early warning system, a lot of early warning system provided by governments, but sometimes it's not accessible because about the language, the language and the accessibility of the early warning system. It's why the clip can give an opportunity to they can have a chance, have to opportunity to design their action plan. And for example, at Yogyakarta, like a faith-based organization, they established for early warning system for floods. They have like sirens, so when the floods, so when they know rains and heavy rains, they know about the alarm and it will be sirens. And the older people know about them and they know what they should to do. And also through the community-led innovation partnership, like people with disability organization, we call it Divagana. They establish like Divgandes. Divgandes is made by people with disability organizations. So they have like accessibility methods. For example, if you are older people, you can choose older people. And the language, it can be integrated with older people language. And it also likes, if you are deaf, people with disability with deaf, it will be vibrates and lightning and the other things. So I think it's important. And actually community has solutions, but sometimes they don't have technical expertise. It's why it's roles of our organization and other CSO, I think. So we can to be a bridge. We can know we have a lot of, we can connect them with the academy and governments. For example, like what I said before about Divgandes and flooding early warning system, academia and governments can support about the technology, about the recognized by governments. For example, like Divgandes, it's also supported by MOSA and Disaster Social Affairs at agency at Yogyakarta. And the other things, CSO also provide some trainings about early warning system. Like Mas Henry said, we should consider about the accessibility. So when we do some training, we should to map or identify who is the participants. When the participants is people with disability, we should to ensure about the reasonable accommodations, about the ramps, about the accessibility of the building and other things. So after we provide an enabling environment, so they can develop early warning systems as well as their needs. And the other things, the second, is CSOs as reporter and amplifier of community voice. Yes. Sometimes, like us, like CSOs, we have like channels of feedback mechanisms. So community can easily ask to us. If the early warning system is not accessible for them, they will say to us. And we can advocate to the others, advocate to governments. And CSO also have roles to collect the evidence. For example, because we conduct research, actually, Jacob Emergency Unit with maybe CDP and CDP, we conduct for baseline study for the women-led anticipatory action project supported by GNDR. What the findings? The finding is the risk communication is not reaching a woman. Why? Because not fully understood by women, because women not participate on the early warning system development. So it's why we should have consider about the participants of training about our activity. And after that, after we know about the evidence, about the findings, we can advocacy and influence policy or regulation at our area, actually at Indonesia. And now, currently at Indonesia, we are discussing presidential regulations for anticipatory actions. Yes, yes, that is struggling about that, about the early warning system, trigger and threshold. Yes, and from the baseline, we call government to know the gap about the early warning system, and from community perspective, so we can influence the government have a good idea for next regulations. And when we ask me about what's the challenge, actually we face 3 challenges. The first is about at the community levels. Sometimes they don't trust about the early warning systems. Because sometimes like myths or local knowledge or like local belief, for example, you know, like ombrometer maybe at Indonesia, it's it's to know about the volume of the rains. At Yogyakarta, it's farmers thinks that it will be like worth of the rains. So when you use ombrometer, so sometimes it can be there isn't rain on these years. So yes, so they don't trust about early warning systems sometimes. And sometimes we know about false warning systems in not accurate forecast, lack of understanding of the early warning system. It's why building to community can trust about the early warning system, it's not easy. And the second about the data, actually we need the disaggregated data. Specifically like Mas Henry said, we need develop early warning system based on their need. But how if we don't have data? But sometimes at Indonesia actually, sometimes at village level, the data not update yearly. So it can be our challenge. And the third is sustainability of community. Because like colleagues from Timor-Leste said about the donors. Because the donor is yearly, or yeah, you know. So there isn't like monitoring funds. So what should community do? Sometimes we also don't have like how they can maintain the early warning system, because the maintenance is more expensive there than developing sometimes. So how can they resilience from their activity and early warning system? So it do look like of ownership and maintenance. It's like of fund, capacity and scale up and monitored by governments. I think that's for my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dinar. Thank you, Dinar. By the way, the Riverside community that she talked about, I think their work that they have done is quite amazing, that the trigger was set by the community themselves. And the response plans were set by the community themselves. It's the process they own and the action plan that they own. So that's amazing. It's amazing. Before we get into the quick discussion at your table, I would like to invite maybe few of you, sorry about my time management, but maybe few of you to ask questions to the panelists if you you have any questions, could you raise your hand? Yes? Okay. Anyone with the mic can... Yes. Thank you. And if you can address your question to any of the panelists.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to give just a perspective of the early warning system. If I give you one example from Pakistan, we have very sophisticated early warning system. The government has established a very good system. Still, they give enough notice to the people, even in the 2022 flooding. But beside this, again, there were 33 million people being affected. 7 to 8 million people were being displaced, and over 1,800 people were being died, despite a very good system, early warning system were being given. So I think there was a gap between, as you say, the last mile. There is a gap between the government structure. Sometimes it goes to one level, and then there is a disconnect between the end line. But I would also say about the role of media, because sometime I had been hearing since yesterday that the early warning system are being given and the people do not have the trust to accept it, to evacuate. Why? One is this social media bombardment with the news. Sometime also create a lot of fuss in a way that because the social media news always have the fake news, so the people don't trust on it. And if the government, other system, for example, the Met Department doesn't have a proper forecasting where the people doesn't have the trust on it, then if the disaster management authority gave early warning system good enough, still the people don't trust it. My question is related how we deal with the social media bombardment of this giving the news where the people are being confused sometimes.
Who is that question addressed to?
Anyone, any panelist?
Anyone would like to answer that question about the social media and yeah?
Thank you. I think this is what we have done in Timor-Leste. In the recent years, not only from Red Cross, but from Civil Protection Authority, also working with the social media. Recently, they have signed MOU with the Telkomsel, with the, how to expand the information alert messages to the community through the SMS alert. On the other side also, we working with the community radio in all 13 municipalities. We train them how to, provide the information that are more simple, clear, and could understand by the community so that they can take action upon it. So this is the experience that I could share. But at the moment, as you said, that sometimes the community didn't really trust on the social media because many fake news there. This is really true. So what the solution that we did so far is more on the working together with the operation, mobile operation in country. We have 3 there, so that they can provide the information. All the alert information coming from the National Meteorological Office, and then the Civil Protection Authority, as well as other DRM actors, they provide the information. For example, like from us, we directly share the information through our WhatsApp group to the branch level, and the branch continue to the community level where we are working with. But from the civil protection, they are disseminate the information through the SMS alert, so that all the people in country can assess that. But still, this is challenges. Yeah.
Anyone want to add anything? Or, yeah?
Yeah. I think the problem in the communities is we have different communities. The accessibility for internet is not the same as the communities from the urban and communities to the rural, which is fishermen and workers, and even the urban poor sectors. We have here in the Philippines, unfortunately, the internet is not accessible to all. Most of the sectors are very poor and they cannot even have their food, money to buy food. How much more a money can buy a load, which is more than 100 peso here, to get internet access. And even so, many fishermen and in urban poor sectors, they don't have even cell phone or mobile phone. So in terms of early warning system, which is our government doing, as the internet, the social media is there accessing for the early warning system, I think it's not, it's not even for all the communities in the Philippines.
Okay. So if you can help me out here. Sorry. Rex, Emilia, Henry, Emily, Dinar, if you can give them a round of applause for their sharing their experience. And this is what I want your help with. We don't want to make it like stage and audience relationship, because we know that you have lots of experience with you also. So if we can have some discussion, we may only have about 10 minutes, but if you can do some sharing at your tables of that critical question of how to turn that early warning information into action, because that's critical. That's where the big gap is. You know, we increase the amount of information, that's not enough. But that's the critical part in early information, early action. So if you could have 10 minutes sharing at your tables before we close this session, is that okay? Okay? Okay. All right, so thank you very much to the panelists, and let's go to discussion at your tables, please. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you.
Awas ada tangga. Tangga satu. Lumayan soalnya. Ini agak pendek. Ya.
So everyone, 2 minutes, and then we'll go for closing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We can close our discussions for now and maybe take it up over coffee later in the evening. Hi, are we ready to stop now? Thank you. I think we need to leave, otherwise we're going to have to spend the night in this room. Okay. So I would really like to thank Mr. Takeshi Komino, our moderator and distinguished panelists, for helping us understand community perspectives. So let's thank them with a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. And for the closing, I would now like to invite Mr. Harold Rice from UNDRR to share key takeaways from the session. Harold is a member of UNDRR's Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, where the majority of his portfolio falls under overseeing UNDRR's engagement in South Asia. Harold is from the United States originally, but has been based in Bangkok for a little over than 2 years. So over to you, Harold.
Thank you very much for the very kind introduction. I'm very encouraged to see many of you still discussing at this hour. I know many of you have been engaged for a long time, getting here before 8 a.m. to accommodate the president. So very, very much appreciate you staying and remaining engaged and being here with us today. A colleague who is now not here any longer was going to help me out because she told me, you tend to speak a bit fast. And since I speak English that I learned in an American school, I can't even promise that I'm fluent in that. So if I'm going too fast at any point, please just give me one of these and I will try to slow down for you. But I also am pressed for time, so we see which one wins out by the end. So I want to talk to really take the key takeaways from this session. I want to talk a little bit about language. I think that there is a common terminology that is used in a lot of areas. One in which is very relevant to UNDRR, but I would say to all of you as practitioners here, is that we used to use the term natural disasters. And then there was a concerted effort to say that disasters are not natural, but rather are the outcome of poor planning, of increased action because of climate change, largely which is human-induced. And I think that is a really good example. But there's another one that is very, very crucial to today, is around the language that we may have called previously vulnerability or vulnerable people. Because rather than people coming first, the vulnerability comes first. You've seen this dynamic. There used to be a terminology where we referred to disabled people, and the people with disabilities led a movement to say, no, we are people first and have something with us rather than being the disability coming first. So we call this people-centered language, We have a similar term in the US where we used to say homeless people, and now we say people experiencing homelessness. I say this because a lot of the conversations today throughout have focused not about people and the characteristics that may put them at greater risk, but rather the capacities in which they have to act because they are individuals with great deal of capacity rather than being defined by one simple characteristic. There was the terminology also utilized to discuss that people have multiple different facets of themselves. We are not one thing, none of us. Me, I am a male, but I'm also American, but I live in Bangkok. There are a lot of different ways that my identity comes. And all of you also come from various characteristics of your identity. So the key is that we need to make sure that these capacities take center stage. And we need to focus on building them rather than focusing on the reasons in which people may be at greater risk. During the simulation exercise, there was a very, very clear definition or a clear point that people may have areas that they become at greater risk, but they may also have areas in which they become further capacitated. So for instance, there was a discussion around a man who is in conflict. Men generally not described as people at greater risk, but in this case is someone who's at greater risk. Another one was children and youth who had been trained in simulation of natural disasters in their school and had knowledge that their parents didn't even have about how to respond to that. So the ability to be at greater risk or not varies drastically based on situation, and people aren't inherently vulnerable or not vulnerable. We have a multitude of different facets of our personality that must be built upon and utilized to really have an early warning system that is effective from end to end. So what I really want to talk about is that the regional characteristics and the importance of regional entities like UNDRR, like WMO, like IFRC, like many of us, that our job also relies on making sure that these identities are lifted up and that there has to be inclusion of communities for those who represent these ideas. So for instance, in the Pacific, coming directly from this region, there was groups of persons with disabilities and organizations representing them, as well as representing women and diverse genders, who came up with a checklist around early warning system to assess the inclusivity of an early warning system. From there, it then gives recommendations for each of the 4 pillars and how you might reach an inclusive system based upon that. So utilizing these, but making sure that they're co-produced and that the individuals who we often refer to as at greater risk are a part of the conversation. Thinking in their shoes like you did in the simulation exercise is great, but it's not enough. We must ensure that they are included in the conversation. To national actors, I say that you need to make sure that there is inclusion of a vast variety of groups, not just the 4 pillar leads that we often see, but rather to extend this to those representing social welfare, community organizations, others that need to go. So I think this is very important, and I realize that I'm about to get the pull here. So what I will say to you in closing is that there are a variety of things that we can do, and we need to focus on the capacities that we have and building those rather than on the things that make us at greater risk. Because after all, early warning for all is not possible unless it's early warning with all. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold, and I think that's a wonderful note to end on. Early warning with all. So we have now come to the end of our session. I would like to thank our panelists, moderators, facilitators, and most of all the members of the audience for collaborating with us today. Thank you, and I hope you have a great evening ahead.